Thank you all for being here. I don't know if you are. I'm sick of this word TMD, but I'd like to put some of it in perspective as I see it today. We do have a court hearing scheduled for Friday. There's a city council discussion scheduled for tomorrow. So I'd like to put it in perspective for what I see. When this agreement was passed back in November, before I became mayor, the intent or the resolution by the city council passed this TMD marketing agreement and said to the mayor, please negotiate a contract setting up the operating agreement. What do we call this one? Yeah, the operating agreement. I'm sorry, to set up the operating agreement with the TMD Corporation. There was a what I would call a draft contract that was provided, but it said to the mayor, please negotiate this contract. When I became mayor and I looked at the contract, I did not like it. As you know, since this thing was ever brought to the forefront, I thought it was an illegal tax. I continue to believe that. But that's in the court. That's in court for determination whether that's illegal. So right now we have this TMD Corporation. We have a proposed operating agreement, and the legality of that of the whole tax will be handled in court. So when I looked at the operating agreement, I said, well, even if it was legal, there's some really bad things for the city on it. The amount of money we get, the length of the contract, the protection for city taxpayers, none of that I thought was strong enough. And I told those who the TMD Corporation that I would be happy to look at a different version. They did not agree to change it, so I issued some principles which I want to change, including, I said, a lower term of the contract, more money for the city, better indemnification, and a look at the living wage. That was deemed non-starting by the corporation. I tried to talk about it with them when they threatened a lawsuit. They said they would not talk, and they took us to court, where we are now. I continue to say let us try to settle this. We are in the middle of, we have not gotten out of a recession we're in. We don't know the status of sequestration. All this is uncertainty for our economy. We don't want to add additional uncertainty by making it tough for the tourism industry in any way. So I agreed to talk. They refused, and so we're in court. And I took another look at the agreement, and I said, well, let me take the context of this operating agreement and make some changes to show that I am certainly negotiating in good faith. And so we took their agreement, which we have a copy of. We have a copy of both the old one and the new one. I made changes of, I think, less than 600 words to their agreement and submitted it back to them. And I think they're talking about it this week. Did you gave out the contrast? If you look at the difference, we have both a written and a chart form of the differences between my counter proposal, as it were, and the original draft agreement. And I think mine is better in many respects. Even if I signed the original one today, the city attorney advises that because there is a legal challenge to the thing, to the whole agreement, that funds would not be released immediately. In fact, the mayor can hold up those funds if there are challenges to the legal structure. And the city attorney said he was working out a stronger protection for the general fund should that tax be declared illegal. So even if I signed the present one, the money would not be released immediately. My version indemnifies the city in a much stronger way, requires the TMD Corporation to set up an insurance fund which will reimburse any problems that a legal decision down the road might bring. And so the funds could start flowing immediately. which is supposedly what TMD Corporation wants. If they want funds to flow immediately, they should select my counter proposal. The terms of the agreement, one is for 5 years. Mine starts off of the year but can be extended up to 5 years. As I said, it gives better indemnification, especially, by the way, I don't know why the elected officials by title were left out of this renewed TMD, and I put that back in. I said there were some things that ought to be funded. The city attorney said there may be some legal problems. I still believe that police and potholes can be funded out of this, but what I put in the agreement, so we can start immediately, was a funding commitment for the for the centennial celebration of Balboa Park. That is, I would like to see a $5 million commitment to that from these funds. I asked for more transparency and accountability in the disclosure, and I do two additional things. One, it prohibits contracting with groups that pay exorbitant salaries. Now, if I paid the head of a marketing division within the San Diego city government $500,000, people would say, "What are you doing this? You can't do that." And yet, that's what the head of what was Conviz and now the San Diego Tourist Authority makes. He makes almost $500,000 a year. I would like the press, by the way, to find out. It's your new job now. To find out about his either retirement and or golden parachute and or whatever he has. Does he have whatever funds that he gets out of this, which they have gone after city employees for. Now we're having city money go in, and I want to make sure that these people are accountable for their salaries. I think Mr. Terzi sent layoff notices to almost 85 people. I don't think he sent one to himself, and yet he's the one making the big salary. And yet, if this was a public function, which I believe it is because it's a tax, city government would never get away with paying somebody that kind of money. In addition, I encourage them to start thinking about and encouraging their member hotels to pay a living wage, and that could be a separate thing. The city attorney made some deal that it couldn't be part of this agreement. If he's right about that, that doesn't mean that the hotels themselves cannot pay a living wage. This has nothing to do with a council policy or anything else. It has to do with what they decide to do. So I thought the original agreement was bad for the taxpayers. I have counter-proposed one that I think is better. It allows funds to be released immediately. It's better because it has better indemnification and protection for the city. It asks for a discussion of living wage. It asks for money for Balboa Park Centennial, and it does not allow exorbitant salaries by those who are promoting our city, at least who will from these funds. I hope the City Council will consider these tomorrow, but I'm happy to answer any questions you got. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the difference between the 39-year agreement and the 5-year agreement that you refused to sign? I think there's some confusion about that.
Okay, the 39.5-year agreement, or what was the length of time for the San Diego Tourism Marketing District to exist. It was authorized for 39.5 years. But that same election provided for specific operating agreements to be done in 5-year increments. So there would be 8 of those along the way. So what we are talking about is that first 5-year agreement, which I have set for 1 year that can be renewed up to 5 years. So there's an operating agreement plus the 40-year thing is a general authorization for the corporation to exist.
Mayor, have you hired an outside counsel yet to defend yourself in this lawsuit?
Yeah, we have filed our papers in the court, and I think we were due last week with our filings. Their response is due, I think, today or tomorrow. And yeah, we have hired outside counsel with city council authorization.
Can you specify how much you were authorized to spend on outside counsel?
Well, there was no there was no amount specified. It's just it's for the matter under discussion now. That is, their challenge of they're asking for a writ of whatever it's called for me to sign this agreement, and we're arguing that I have the discretion not to sign. So it's a pretty limited kind of thing. I think the judge argued last time in court that he did not want to get into a political debate, and that's what this is. This is political debate. The council set up suggested one contract. The mayor has negotiated another. I hope that there's a response to that. That's politics. That's not for a legal decision. And on the technical question of signing an agreement, I have signed an agreement. So I think it's a moot point anyway, but that obviously will be argued in court on Friday.
Mayor, if standing by your guns means that the San Diego Tourism Authority has to shut down, is that something you're willing to do?
Well, I don't have anything to do with that, frankly. I mean, that's another decision. But, look, the chief function, one of the chief functions of a mayor is to keep a robust economy. And clearly, the economy is one of our three leading parts of our economy. So my job is to keep that robust. I'm trying to do that by negotiating this. If the other side, I'm not sure why you don't ask them that why they won't negotiate a good funding mechanism. But let me point out, there is no reason for the Conviz or anything. Conviz is a private group. It's not a publicly funded group. It's funded by the TMD, which I think is funded by a tax. But forget that for a second. The TMD, 9 or 10 hotels in this city control the majority of this whole voting procedure. By the way, when this TMD was set up, the majority of the hotels actually voting, and there's 1,300 hotels. I don't know, 400 or 500 actually voted, so almost 1,000 didn't even think it was of importance. But even in those votes, the vote was something like 150 to 217 or something against it. By the number of ballots, the TMD was voted down. Smaller hotels do not see anything in this. But because of a weighted vote by revenue and by property value, only 9 or 10 hotels control a majority of the vote. So after the first 9 vote, they have a majority. Well, those 9, and they control, just those 9 hotels control 15 million out of the 30 million tax. So why don't they pay their 15 million right to the Conviz, or I'm sorry, what they call now the San Diego Tourism Authority? That is, they don't need the city to collect this anyway. They are charging a room tax that goes to them. They could raise. I mean, I'm not stopping them. I can't to stop them from just raising their rates 2%, taking that 15 million, giving it to the Conviz. Why is it the mayor that's being blamed for this? They're the ones that wanted to do this. They were not a majority of the hotels in this city, but they still have the capacity to. I mean, I don't know why they didn't fund this whatever $5 million contract that they said was lost. They have to pay 15 million out of the 30 million, just the 9 biggest. Why don't they just do it now? I don't understand it. They want the free money, which is why I think it's a tax. They want the free money from the city. They want everybody assessed so they don't have to pay it all. I mean, by the way, when I keep asking the question of the hotel operators, why do they need the city involved in this? They say, well, not everybody will pay, which is what was reflected in the vote. And so I said, let me get this straight. If the city has to assess and force people to pay who didn't want to pay this self-assessment, what is that called? I think it's a tax, pretty obvious to everybody here. That is, we are forcing people to pay who don't want to pay. That's a tax. None of us want to pay taxes. But they can do it right now themselves. So ask the hotel owners why they want to strangle the economy of this city. Don't ask the mayor.
Question: the $160,000 cutoff. What was the thinking behind that? I noticed that is exactly Lawrence Stewart's salary.
Right.
It was that.
So anything above that, we said.
Okay.
We just took it. Look, $160,000. It sounds to most people like a big salary, and it's in the top percent or 1.5% of salaries in this country. That's a pretty good salary. Why should the city be fostering $500,000 salaries for stuff that we are funding. Nobody would tolerate a city employee from doing this. No, people voted against pensions. So I want to know what Mr. Terzi, getting this public money really, is doing, making $500,000 a year. I want to know his pension. I want to know his golden parachute. I want to know his health benefits. I want to know his. Come on, that's what every city employee has to give to you people, and that's what Prop B was all about. So force these guys to do it. I need you to ask those questions. You got a lot of quotes from Mr. Terzi. Craig, did you ask him about his pension, and you asked him about his benefits, and ask him about his golden parachute, and ask him about, I mean, come on, let's dig on this stuff. Don't just go after public employees.
Although you do have about 40 or 50 city employees making above $160,000. Is that
out of 10,000?
Is that exorbitant?
No, I'm not giving them this contract either.
Questions. First off, will this definitely require another council vote on the TMD agreement? Number two, this is quite a different proposal than the one you made last month. Is this a sign that you think you might lose in court, or is there another motive behind it?
No. I'm trying to show, by the way, that I'm open to negotiation. So I came out with general principles. And those same principles are in here, by the way. But then I decided, since everybody's focusing on this contract, I'll make a few changes and make it my counterproposal. It shows that I am negotiating in full faith. Nobody has come back to me and said, well, I like this one but not this one, or they just said they're all non-starters. Well, I'll tell you, my version gets money quicker to the tourist industry. So if they want to continue on another line, then again, ask them why they want to strangle the tourism in the city, not the mayor. So I'm trying to show that given this situation, and again, Lisa, remember, the legal situation is being decided on another track. I'm working, even within the context that this, I don't think it's legal, and I'm trying to protect the city if that decision does indeed come down. And my version does. It protects the taxpayers in a way that the initial version did not. And if the city council wants to persist in that one, you got to ask them why then it becomes a political issue, not a financial issue. Then they're going after me, not the substance, because mine demonstrably protects the city better, has the quicker infusion of funds. And if they don't like some other parts, then tell them that's what negotiation does. Tell me they'll do this, but not that. I'm not. I don't think it has to go back to the council because the council authorized the agreement, or an agreement. So, I mean, it could go back. I don't care. But if we both agree, that is the TMD Corporation, me, I'm not sure. I think everybody will be happy.
Mayor, if the judge issues a mandate that says that the funds need to be released without your signature, you've got to go back, I guess, to the council to get authorization to spend city money to appeal. Do you have a skin in the game as far as the strong mayor and the powers that your signature is more than just a ministerial act that a judge can say that is signed whether or not you put your signature to it?
Well, I mean, if a judge signs that, then if a judge says that, which I don't think, even from the way, if we quote lost, I think that he will say I have to sign it. He won't say it can go in without my signature. Then I have to decide whether I want to appeal that or not. If I do, I will have to go back to the city council for authorization.
Or can you find it within your?
I mean, look. I don't want. This present expenditure is authorized by the council. I would like to continue to have that authorization.
No Gandhi-like civil disobedience here. The judge says sign it, and you're not.
Me? Only if you'll go to jail with me. Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize for being late. I was at another city council press conference. Can you just kind of briefly just give us a...
DeMaio is having another one?
Just a brief 10, 15-second soundbite on what you were doing here today, what's going on?
Gustafson, why don't you give him you're authorized to speak on my behalf. What I'm trying to do here today is show that certainly I, as mayor, am interested in not holding up money for advertising of San Diego in a very competitive tourist market, and that I have offered a a counter proposal to the operating agreement, and I hope that they will consider it and either sign my version or continue to talk to me about it. This is certainly a better alternative method than arguing in court.
I have
Roger.
a couple questions. You submitted this to them last Tuesday, right? Had they responded? Did anybody call you back and said, we'll talk about it, we'll think about it? Have you had any response at all from the TMD people?
No, the thing that drove me to, I guess, to do this for you is that all of a sudden on the council is a resolution on the original agreement. So I assume that was done with their either request or knowledge or support. You have to ask the council president. But once they have brought, they are saying, now we are reinforcing our original thing. So I want to make clear that people understood what I was trying to do.
Nobody didn't call you back and said
No.
a year or nay or anything?
No, the response was, let's go to the council.
Now, another thing is, on the living wage element, when I was reading the actual wording, it says something about you have to appeal in order to show that you're exempt from the requirement, and I wonder who is the paymaster, the payzar, who's going to be judged on that sort of thing?
Tell me what section you're looking at so I just can make sure I have the wording.
Page 25.
Of the original one or? Right.
Your proposed one.
10.7,
I'm sorry. What page?
10.7.
page 25.
Okay. Where are we?
So it says the corporation may apply to the city's living wage administrator for determination of exemption. The corporation agrees to promote and encourage the said.
Oh, okay.
So when
Yeah.
it says, to the extent the corporation believes that it or its subcontractors may be exempt. So do we know anything about what grounds there are for exemption, and who is this administrator that does that?
The attorneys did this in, my attorneys did this with respect to the city's living wage ordinance as it exists at this moment, where we require all contractors and subcontractors to comply with it. And the corporation has said that they don't, they're not subject to it. So there is a procedure in the code to talk to the, I'm frankly not sure who it is, but whoever the administrator is of our living wage ordinance for a determination. I mean, there is a process within that ordinance about, and we're talking mainly about themselves, not in this contract. This is response to them as a corporation and their subcontractors, not the hotels which they own. Those are not the legal entities here. What I'm asking them to do with their hotels is to encourage them to pay a living wage. Again, I mean, they're paying $8.60 an hour and giving money to Conviz, whose administrator makes $500,000 a year. I mean, you know, there's just a disconnect there that's not fair to our city.
Another thing is on the Bobo Park money, don't you have control in a way over that, because you have to approve their budget, or the city council has to approve their budget every year, so you can hold up approval for any of the annual budgets for TMD until they appropriate a certain amount for what you think they should be doing.
Yeah, again, I'm not exactly sure of that. I think what we have, I don't think we approve their budget per se. We give them, once we approve this, they get the 2% of their.
I think you approve they present a budget in advance, and you have to.
You know, I don't know that we actually do approve that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't think that that's what occurs. If it is, you know, but I want them, as they have. I don't know where it says that Conviz gets 80%, or they're giving Conviz 80% of its budget. So, but they're doing that, and so I'm not sure that's subject at all to council approval. I just want to specify what I think is important for them to fund. There was some legal wrangling on whether I could put in city police department or potholes, so I left those out and said, okay, but you can at least do this, which is exactly related to your tourist function.
You said that as the mayor, you have the authority to hold up the funds, but according to the city attorney, it's the city council that has the authority to release or not release the funds. Can you clarify that, please?
From what I understand from the city attorney's advice on this was that there are sections in the charter which says that the mayor may recommend that the funds that are subject to legal challenge do not have to be expended. I mean, I'm not using a legal, I'm just doing my layman's summary. That is as I understand it, my authority. But I think the council can override that. Let me just ask one of my legal advisors. Lee, the question was where I talk about the holding up the funds. For example, we have if funds are subject to legal challenge, I may hold them up. But the council, I think, can override that. But do you know the exact language we're talking about here?
I know the exact language you're talking about. It is a paragraph in the operating agreement, which means it only becomes.
No. It's my charter authority to hold up but funds that are subject to legal challenge. It's not in this agreement. It's under my authority as mayor.
Well, Mr. Mayor, then you're looking at a different provision.
Okay.
The one the city attorney has been talking about is in the agreement, and he believes it would only be triggered if the agreement were signed.
No, but there's other authority.
According to what he told me,
Okay.
the city council has the authority to release the funds. You have the authority to veto that, and then they can override the veto if they want.
Okay. We'll have to check that. As I understand it, and again, like I said, I'd have to check what Roger asked. There is a provision in the charter, basically, that says if I believe that funds can be are legally challenged, that I could withhold their an expenditure. But I also believe the council can override that my holding it up is how I understand it. But we should check the exact process. Either way, it's a similar thing. That there's a veto and a not overriding it, basically.
Are you worried about all this $30 million the city in the bank not doing anybody any good for months and months? Is this?
Yeah, of course I am. But it's not 30 million. It's 30 million over a year that they collect. Yeah, of course I am. But I said what you should do is ask that very same question of Terry Brown and the head of Hyatt and the head of Sheraton and the head of Hilton and the head of Host, why they won't pay. They could pay that money right now into whatever they want. They could have their own private commercials. They can use Conviz. They could do whatever they want. Ask them that question. I am trying to protect the city taxpayers against what I think is an unprotected expenditure of funds. That's not that we don't have we don't have sufficient protection in the case of a legal judgment against us. They can spend the money now. They're the ones that are collecting it. They could raise their room rates 1%, 2%, whatever they want, and use that money to advertise the city. But they keep having their $500,000 executive crying that they don't have the money. Let him go to them and say, give me the $5 million. We'll give it back to you if we win the legal case. Come on. I mean, these are multinational corporations. And again, they fix the outcome of their own election by the weighted vote procedure. They decided that other people had to pay the other half of the $30 million. They didn't want to pay 30. They didn't want to pay 15. So they had the city come in and say, you guys pay your self-assessment of $15 million. That's in quotes, by the way, at all times.
On a related issue, you had asked the San Diego Convention Center Board to take back the marketing authority for the convention center from the San Diego Tourism Authority. Where does that stand right now?
Well, as I understand it, there is a contract between those two bodies, and they thought that they couldn't break that contract, is how I understand it. They didn't like the original turning over authority. They did it under. They felt coercion by the mayor, the previous mayor, and there was a deal made. See, all this is also in the context of a deal where to get the financing for the convention center, that is, the hotel owners agreed, and again, that's in quotes, to supporting an increase in the TOT. By the way, their first comeback is they wanted to control the convention center board. That was their first reply to, oh, we'll support this TOT. I mean, and they decided politically that they couldn't get that, so they said, okay, we'll set up this process for the TMD and a weighted vote and all that. So this was all within and if they would get the marketing authority back from the convention center, which has been a dispute, I don't know, 8 or 10 years earlier. So all this is part of behind closed doors scheming between the big hotels, the city attorney, everybody, about how to get the best deal for them. This was never about the best deal for the taxpayer, and that's what I'm trying to bring back to the fore. This is a private deal, and I'm trying to break it in all respects. The marketing, their marketing that they got under it, and this TMD that they got out of it. It was a bad deal, both of them. How do we have a private group, I ask you, marketing the public convention center when they all have competing convention center space? And already I've gotten people who said there's already favoritism and they're selling their own space rather than convention center space. That is, how would you not expect a conflict of interest to be here? If Town and Country and Hilton and Sheraton are the ones that are supposedly promoting our local convention center, and they have competing space, and a call comes in and says, where would you recommend that we have this convention of whatever? Do I trust them to say, oh, the public convention center? No. I believe that they will say, oh, you should look at Town and Country. So I object to that whole way they've set that up. That was a whole private deal too. But all that was within the context of, oh, we'll help you with the convention center. That should have been a public vote too. But no, it went to this private vote, and they extorted these other things from the city in exchange for that.
So then, is it just done because they have a contract until that contract is up, or are you trying to fight that?
We're trying to look at it with more focus, and again, if the so-called tourism authority is not funded by the TMD, I don't know how that contract plays out or what. I think it's a bad deal no matter what. There have been a lot of bad deals before I became mayor. I can't undo them all, although I will try.
What do you do on Friday if the judge does not rule in your favor?
Well, if he says I have to sign it, I have to choose between signing it right there or appealing it. We'll see how. My own sense, by the way, is that not only do we have a very strong case, but because it's such, as courts have said, a political thicket, that is now we have competing agreements. There's council votes tomorrow. That's politics. That's not what a judge wants to step into. Thank you very much. I look forward to never having to say TMD again.